So my name is Vince Kadlubek. I'm a founder of Meow Wolf, and I'm a director at Meow Wolf as well, which means that the director part is that I'm on the board of directors. I'm a board member. And as a founder, I'm one of 6 co-founders. So there's 6 of us who founded the company back in 2015, and I'm one of those 6. I was CEO of the company, which is the executive who kind of ran the company, grew the company, got us into Las Vegas, got us into Denver. And I was the CEO for about 6 years, from basically until about 2020. I was CEO. So I have a lot of different hats, and yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and happy to talk to you all about Meow Wolf.
Thank you for participating. And so we have a lot of students here who are familiar with Meow Wolf and immersive art, but those who are not can say, if you're giving an elevator pitch about immersive art, how would you describe it?
I would say it's like immersive art is like going inside of a painting. So instead of walking up to a painting and looking at it on a wall, you're actually going inside of the painting. That's probably the best way to put it. And then we also add elements of story through it too. So it's not like just going up to a painting and walking inside of a painting. It's kind of like walking inside of a comic book or walking inside of a video game, so that's how we think about it. It's immersive art, but it's also immersive storytelling.
Absolutely. And I just went there on Saturday, and the one here in Las Vegas is so massive. It's 52,000 square feet. And my father is an artist, and it's just an art on a canvas. And it's exactly how you describe it. You're inside of the artwork. And
right.
So I wanted to see if we could get a little bit about your background when you were growing up, because I consider you to be kind of a visionary as far as mixing art and business the way that you have. What were some subjects that you were drawn to when you were a kid?
Oh gosh. I really enjoyed writing. I really enjoyed writing poetry, creative fiction. I was also in the journalism side of things. And I think that that's writing is a good place to balance both creativity and business, because when you're writing, you want it to have creative flair. You want it to feel creative. If it doesn't feel creative, then it's going to be boring. But at the same time, you need it to get a point across. You need it to communicate something. So there needs to be something concrete about writing something, and so if it's not concrete, then it's going to just feel like all over the place. So it balances both. I think good writing balances both the creative side and the logistical side of a brain. So that was the area I was mostly into. I also loved doing projects. A lot of times a teacher would give me an assignment, to do a book report or something. And instead of just doing a book report, I wanted to create a play around the book, or I wanted to create some kind of production. I wanted to think about it from a project perspective, and that always interested me, more so than just doing standard homework. I always wanted to take it to another level,
I have a question. One of our students emailed me a question. Can I just jump right into the student questions?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So one of the students wants to know that they watched a documentary about the evolution of your art in an interview. Can you talk to the kids about the importance of believing something that doesn't exist and how that helped you evolve your company?
Oh, gosh. That's such a good question. It's a huge aspect to all of this. We have a very powerful piece of technology living inside of our skull called the brain. The brain has an incredible ability to create a mental image. And we experience that mental image mostly through what we call memory. And memory is a past-based, it's about the past. A memory is about the past, right? Well, you can use the same technology, the same brain, the same mental imagery to not just think about the past, but to also think about the future. And that is called the imagination, or called envisioning, or the vision. And at some point in my life, I got really interested in using that part of my brain to think about the future rather than just using it to store images of the past. And what that did is, like, the better I could see the future, the better I could understand what that idea was in the future, the more I could believe in it. And belief is a really interesting word. The root of belief is actually love. So belief and love are actually the same word at its core. And so the way that I think about it is, like, if you can use your imagination to think about something in the future, envision something in the future, and no matter how impossible it may seem, think about it in the future and then love it. Like, love that vision, love that image, and love it so much that you're willing to work for it on a daily basis. And so it's like, imagine, and then believe, and love, and then work. Actually take actions towards making that vision happen. And then if you can do that, if you can get good at that process, then you can create anything in the future that you imagine. Anything you imagine, you can create, as long as it's a clear vision, a clear mental image, and you love it enough to do it, to actually work on it on a daily basis. So that's kind of how I think about it. It's incredibly important to the artistic process. It's important to the business process. It's important for your own life, your own self, like, to think about the future as something that you have control over. And it starts with your own imagination.
You just answered like 5 student questions with one answer. That was incredible. We have one of our students, Mev, in Italy. She's going to ask, she had a pretty good question for you about your evolution professionally.
Hello, sir. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I would like to know, what path did you take to bring your idea of creative process from your mind to reality as a CEO?
So part of the process of, like, going from imagination to reality is consistency. Like, it's easy to hold a mental image of memory, because that's the way the brain is wired. Like, if something happened in the past, we can remember it, and we can be consistent with the memory, mostly consistent with the memory of it. But when you're thinking about something in the future, it's hard to stay consistent with the image. And so some tricks to that is, like, write it down, put it down on paper. Like, if you have an image of the future, write it down, because now it's there. Now you can go back to that note and you can stay consistent. Or if you can draw, or if you have a friend who can draw, or, a family member who can draw, describe what it is that you see and then start to draw it on paper and just sketch it out. And so, like, the more you can get the image of the future out of your mind and onto something concrete, the more likely you're going to be able to stay consistent with that image. And then the more likely it is that image is going to end up being created at some point in the future. So that's what I would say is, like, a really important aspect of the entire process.
That is phenomenal creative process. One of the students, they wanted to know, what kind of advice would you give to students who want to go into the profession of immersive art?
I would say, like, the best advice. So, I mean, you can go to certain schools, you can study certain things, One area that is, I think, like already pretty well established that you could go into is like interior design, or you could go into themed entertainment. So that's one that's really big. Like the whole world of theme parks and amusement parks, they have colleges, they have degrees, they have all sorts of training you can do about how to build an amusement park or how to design an amusement park and a theme park. And you can take those same skills and then you can put them towards immersive art. So I would say like theme park industry or interior design are probably the areas I'd point to directly. But even more important than school is like, I would say start now. Like start doing immersive art now. And the best place to start is in your bedroom. You have a bedroom. Have fun with how your bedroom looks. Like get materials, get Christmas lights, get speakers, get fabric or whatever you want. Get your materials together and start to decorate, fully immersively decorate your room. And then like after a few months, take it down and do another one and just keep on doing different experiences inside of your bedroom. And I'd say start today, like just do it now. You know, like when I was 15 years old, I painted my entire bedroom with black light paint and got black lights everywhere and like just created this insane black light room inside of my bedroom. My parents luckily allowed me to do this. But yeah, I'd say like, there's no reason to like wait for school. Like just start now, like in your bedroom.
It's great advice. Make sure you ask for your parents' permission. So painting the living room. I got blue light here in my office. So we'll do like maybe 2 more questions and we'll let you go. One of the students wants to know what is it like collaborating with other people on like massive art projects?
Oh my gosh. Collaborating with people is the most difficult thing that you'll ever encounter. It's also the most rewarding. So you get so much reward out of like working with someone and creating something together that's really awesome, but it's really hard to do it. And I would say that like at the beginning of the collaboration, it's exciting. You're like, oh, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this. I'm like, oh yeah, this could be awesome. Then about like a third of the way into the collaboration, you start to really, you fight, you argue, you start to not see eye to eye. And this continues. Like if you stick to it, if you stick with the project with this person, most people don't. Most people just like drop out of it because like they're fighting too much. They just can't keep going. But you know, you have to stick through it. You have to know that there's going to be struggles, and then you have to stick with it. And it keeps happening. You keep struggling. Like for 2/3 of the project, you're basically at odds with your collaborator. Then the last part of the project, before it's completed, you start to get to a place where you know together you have to finish the project. And as you start to think about having to finish the project, it all comes back together. And it hopefully, usually turns out good. It turns out great. And then you're really excited. But there's this whole part of the collaboration that is like, you know, really difficult. And you just have to stay with it. And I would say like another thing about that question, it's a great question, by the way. Another thing about that question is like, to collaborate with somebody means that you have to be willing to step into their shoes half the time. And they have to be willing to step into your shoes half the time. So you have to like put yourself aside, and you have to really feel and understand and listen. And you need to be able to feel what it is that they're trying to do. And you need to let go of what you're trying to do half the time. You know, so you can't just like hold on to your ideas fully the entire project. You have to like be willing to have space for their ideas and their look on it. That's what a collaboration is. And a lot of people have a hard time with that because it's like we get so attached to our ideas and it feels almost like emotional for us to let go of our ideas. But you have to get comfortable with being like, you know, kind of just being like, okay, cool. It's not going to be the way that I thought. And that's all right. That's why we're collaborating. It's because it's going to be different than how I think it's going to be. So you have to be able to put yourself aside consistently. And that helps with all those struggles that I was talking about, that helps like make those struggles less intense.
That's a good lesson on communicating.
Just life in general, relationships.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
just
totally.
talking. So before we let you go, whether these students want to go into art or whether they want to go into a different profession altogether, as someone who's an innovator in his field, what kind of advice would you give to these kids as they kind of go off into the world and figure out what they want to do?
Do stuff, take action, like try stuff. Like there's no substitute for doing things. Like learning, like going to, and I'm not saying don't go to school, like go to school, but like ultimately do projects, try something out, put something out in the world, like design a play for your friends, even if it's going to suck. Like you have to go through a process of making stuff, actually making stuff and showing it to people. And what's going to happen is you're going to do it and it's going to be bad. And everyone's going to be, and you're going to feel embarrassed and a little bit ashamed for what you just created. But then you just need to keep doing that. You need to do it like 100 times. Just keep on making stuff and showing it to people. And it's going to get better every time. And what happens, what I see happen a lot is that people are so afraid of putting stuff in the world, of actually creating things, that they never go through the process of failure. They're so afraid of failing that they never actually go through the process of failure. And it's through the process of failure that you learn how to then do stuff better. So like I have failed so many times. Like I have failed 100 times in my life with regards to projects or businesses or pieces of art or, theatrical plays or whatever. I've failed over and over and over and over again. And finally, 20 years into my career of making stuff, finally the House of Eternal Return in Santa Fe was a success. And finally, Las Vegas, Meow Wolf Omega Mart is a success. So it takes like being courageous, and rather than learning how to do something, just do something. And you'll learn from the action of actually doing it. So that would be my advice.